Imagine, for a second, that you are searching for a ghost.
Right, but not the rattling chains kind of ghost.
Yeah, exactly. Not the dusty attic kind. We are talking about a nearly 6-foot-long river-dwelling ghost, a phantom of these really murky depths that, marine biologists have spent literally decades desperately looking for across multiple countries.
Yes, scouring some of the most massive river systems on the planet.
Right? Chasing local rumors, filtering water samples for DNA, and just coming up completely empty-handed time after time.
Which is incredibly frustrating for
Oh,
researchers.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
You naturally start to wonder if this creature has finally just vanished for good. And then out of nowhere, you realize that not only is the ghost still here, but there is a thriving hidden population living right under your nose.
It's honestly like something out of a movie.
But our mission for this deep dive is to explore a May 2026 report from the Star.
Yeah.
And it details the genuinely remarkable discovery of the critically endangered Ganges shark in Indonesia.
Such a huge find. It really is. Specifically, we're going to figure out exactly why this recent sighting in the Sesiap River isn't just, a lucky break. It's a major paradigm-shifting breakthrough for global marine biology.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really appreciate the magnitude of what these researchers found, you have to understand just how vanishingly rare this creature actually is.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we hear the term endangered thrown around a lot, right? Often attached to animals we still see in zoos or nature documentaries. But the Ganges shark, which is scientifically known as Glyphus gangeticus, it takes rarity to an entirely different mathematical level.
Yeah, the International Union for Conservation of Nature categorizes the Ganges shark as critically endangered.
Which is the highest alert level, right?
Exactly, making it one of the absolute rarest freshwater shark species on the planet. And we should probably clarify the scale of this animal for the listener, too.
Oh, yeah, please do, because I think people hear river shark and picture something small.
Right, they picture tiny little bottom feeders. But no, they can grow up to roughly 1.8 meters in length.
Wow.
Yeah, that is nearly 6 feet of apex predator navigating through complex river waters.
That is just terrifying and awesome all at once, and the statistic from the source regarding their rarity is, well, it's stark. Since the year 2000, there have been fewer than 10 recorded sightings of this shark.
Yeah, it's hard to even wrap your head around that.
Fewer than 10.
Yeah.
And that is not just in one isolated local pond, That spans its entire historical range.
Which is massive.
Right, it stretches all the way from Pakistan to Myanmar. It's like thinking a legendary creature is practically a myth because you've only seen it a handful of times in 2 decades across thousands of miles.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, stumbling into a crowded room full of 43 of them in just 3 weeks.
What's fascinating here is the geographical reality of that historical range.
Yeah.
You're talking about the Ganges, the Brahmaputra, the Irrawaddy.
Huge waterways.
Huge, yes.
Yeah.
And some of the most heavily populated, industrialized, and heavily fished river systems in the entire world.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so there are people everywhere.
Exactly. We are looking at thousands upon thousands of miles of waterways across South and Southeast Asia. So for a creature that large to be spotted fewer than 10 times in over a quarter of a century across that massive footprint, it truly earns that river ghost moniker.
No kidding.
Every single confirmed sighting over the last 2 decades has essentially been treated as a total anomaly.
I try to imagine how scientists even go about surveying for something like this. I mean, if you were looking for a great white shark, you can fly a drone over clear ocean water, right? Or look for surface breaches.
Yeah, standard marine biology tools.
But a freshwater shark in a massive Asian river system, those waters are incredibly turbid. They're heavy with sediment, they're muddy, they're fast-flowing. You could have a 6-foot shark swimming like 3 feet away from your boat, and you would never see it.
You wouldn't. That environmental murkiness is precisely why visual surveys almost always fail in these habitats.
How do they even know they're there at all?
Well, researchers usually have to rely on incidental catches by local fishermen or, analyzing environmental DNA from water samples just to prove the animal passed through a specific area.
Oh, right, the eDNA stuff.
Yeah. And because of that, the assumption within the scientific community for decades was that this species was just clinging to existence by the absolute thinnest of threads.
Just scattered in solitary isolation across this massive degraded range.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the breakthrough. A collaborative research team involving Hasanuddin University, James Cook University, and Universitas Borneo Tarakan They didn't just spot one elusive shark swimming by a camera in Indonesia's North Kalimantan province.
No, they didn't.
During their field surveys in the Sesep River, they recorded 43 specimens.
It's just staggering.
Right, and they didn't do this over a decade of grueling, round-the-clock monitoring. They documented all 43 in less than 3 weeks.
Finding 43 individuals in a single, concentrated 21-day window completely shatters the previous assumptions about their population dynamic.
I mean, it has to, right?
Oh, absolutely. It forces biologists to rethink how these predators use freshwater ecosystems. It highlights how incredibly complex these river networks are and, frankly, how little we still understand about what mechanisms allow a heavily depleted species to remain hidden for so long.
Okay, but 43 6-foot sharks don't just, like, hide in a puddle. What is it about this specific river's geography that essentially cloaked them from science for 26 years?
That's the big question.
Because the discovery took place in the Tanah Tidung Regency, in the Sesayap River, and according to Michael Grant, he's a researcher from James Cook University, mentioned in the article, this river was formally designated as an important shark and ray area back in 2024.
Right, and that 2024 designation was a really vital scientific precursor. It was a formal acknowledgement that the Sesayap River possessed the precise ecological conditions necessary to support highly sensitive aquatic life.
So they knew it was a good spot?
They knew it was ecologically rich, yeah. But uncovering the sheer volume of the critically endangered Ganges shark, that went far beyond standard expectations.
Because the article notes something incredibly specific about this habitat. It states that this river serves as a primary nursery ground for the rare river shark. Now, here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
We usually picture sharks as nomadic ocean wanderers cruising the saltwater depths. But this is a freshwater river shark, and it's not just passing through the Sesayap River on its way somewhere else. So why does finding a specific nursery ground suddenly upgrade this from a cool, fantastic biological survey to a major scientific breakthrough?
Well, to understand the mechanics of why a primary nursery ground changes everything, we have to look at the reproductive strategy of sharks compared to other fish.
Okay.
Many bony fish reproduce by releasing thousands, sometimes literally millions, of eggs directly into the open water.
Right, just kind of leaving them entirely to fate.
Exactly. But sharks utilize a completely different evolutionary strategy. They invest a massive amount of biological energy into producing a very small number of highly developed young.
Oh, I see. So every single individual pup represents a huge investment for the species.
Exactly. They can't afford to lose them.
Wow, okay.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, a primary nursery ground is the biological incubator for the entire species. For a marine animal to utilize a freshwater river as a nursery, it requires incredible physiological adaptation.
Right, because of the salt.
Right. Yes. Most sharks cannot survive in freshwater because their bodies lose salt to the surrounding water. It's a process related to osmoregulation.
Ah, osmoregulation.
Yeah, and the Ganges shark expends enormous energy to maintain its internal balance in these rivers.
So wait, if it takes that much energy just to survive in freshwater, why would they choose a river for a nursery instead of the ocean? It seems kind of counterintuitive.
It acts as a natural force field against larger ocean predators.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, the vast majority of marine predators cannot handle the drop in salinity. By navigating up the Sesayap River, the adult Ganges sharks are placing their pups in an environment where massive ocean threats simply cannot follow them.
That is brilliant.
It is. And the murky, turbid freshwater that makes it so difficult for human scientists to find these sharks. It also provides a perfect visual cloak for the young pups.
That is such a brilliant evolutionary trade-off. They essentially trade the biological cost of managing their internal salt levels for a predator-free runway.
Precisely.
The murky water protects them while they hunt smaller prey and grow strong enough to eventually expand their range. So finding this nursery isn't just finding a group of surviving adults, it is finding the actual factory of the species.
Finding 43 specimens, many of which are utilizing this specific habitat for early life development, proves they have a functional mechanism for generational survival.
Which we didn't know they had.
No, we didn't. If the global population of the Ganges shark was only scattered as isolated individuals from Pakistan to Myanmar, the statistical probability of two adults finding each other, mating, and successfully rearing young would be virtually zero.
Right, it's a miracle they exist at all.
Exactly. The existence of this nursery in North Kalimantan means we finally know exactly where the reproductive heart of the species is currently beating.
Protecting this single river system could effectively mean saving the entire species from extinction,
That's the reality, yes.
which introduces a really heavy practical challenge. You find the holy grail of a critically endangered species, you locate their biological incubator. The instinct, from a traditional conservation standpoint, might be to just draw a red line around it.
Oh, the fortress model.
Right, to build a fortress, lock down the river, and keep all human activity out. But the source material details an approach that goes in a completely different, much more complex direction.
It does, because the traditional fortress conservation model often fails spectacularly in environments like this. The 2022 partnership between Hasanuddin University, James Cook University, and Universitas Borneo Tarakan set a totally different foundation.
How so?
Well, they weren't just looking to extract biological data and publish a paper. They were actively looking for a way to weave the human element into the survival of the shark.
The article actually quotes Professor Rahani Ambo Rop from Hasanuddin University outlining this exact philosophy. She stated that this finding is not merely about saving one rare species. She emphasized that it is about building a conservation model that is fair, collaborative, and acceptable to the community.
And that phrasing, fair, collaborative, and acceptable, is the critical pivot toward modern, sustainable environmental science.
So what does this all mean in practice? Because often conservation feels like an outside force.
It really does.
Researchers fly in from across the globe, put up heavy-handed restriction signs, ban local activities, and then, they leave the area. But this cooperative approach demands local intimidation. How does making the rules acceptable to the community actually save the shark on a day-to-day basis?
This raises an important question about the socioeconomic reality of overlapping habitats. You have to picture the daily function of the Sasayap River.
Okay.
This isn't an isolated, untouched nature reserve hidden behind a fence in the wilderness. For the people living in the Tanah Taidon Regency, this river is a working highway.
It's their lifeblood.
Yes, it is their backyard, their commercial transport route, and most importantly, a primary source of their livelihood and daily food.
Right. So you have an entire community living, working, and casting nets in the exact same waters where a nearly 6-foot critically endangered apex predator is actively breeding.
Exactly.
If a researcher from afar just dictates a rigid no-fishing zone, that local fisherman suddenly can't feed his family. You instantly turn the shark into a financial enemy.
That's exactly what happens. When conservation becomes a burden forced upon a local population, the wildlife ultimately suffers.
That makes total sense.
If a local fisherman accidentally catches a Ganges shark in his net, a situation known as bycatch, his reaction depends entirely on his relationship with the conservation effort.
Oh, wow. I see where this is going.
Right. If the rules are punitive and alienating, that fisherman might kill the shark and hide the evidence to avoid a massive fine or losing his fishing license.
But if the model is collaborative, that same fisherman becomes like the primary monitor for the species.
Yes, exactly.
If he feels ownership over the conservation effort, he is far more likely to safely release the bycatch, report the sighting to researchers, and perhaps even adjust the type of gear he uses in certain stretches of the river during pupping season.
The researchers fundamentally understand that scientific data collection is useless without the community acting as daily stewards of the river.
They need the locals.
Desperately. Sustainable approaches require the people who are out on that water every single day to be active participants.
Yeah.
They possess invaluable local ecological knowledge about river currents, seasonal changes, and fish movements that high-level university researchers simply cannot replicate from a lab.
It is the difference between forcing someone to guard a museum they aren't allowed to enter versus empowering them to protect their own heritage.
That's a great way to put it.
And to formalize this integration, the report mentions that the team is calling for the establishment of a formal shark and ray research consortium in Kalimantan.
Right. And a consortium acts as the structural bridge between high-level science and daily river life.
Yeah.
On one side, it strengthens the data. Okay. A dedicated regional scientific body can continuously track water quality, monitor the specific ecological triggers that make the Sasayap River such a perfect nursery, and study the health of the Ganges shark pups over time.
And on the other side, it creates a table where the community actually has a voice in the policy.
Yes. The consortium ensures that any protective measures put in place balance the biological needs of the shark with the economic realities of North Kalimantan.
It's a compromise.
It brings local government officials, indigenous community leaders, and international researchers into the same room. If fishing gear needs to be modified to prevent accidental bycatch, the consortium can perhaps find funding to subsidize new nets for the fishermen, rather than just demanding they absorb the cost themselves.
So it transforms the discovery from a mere biological event into a functioning social infrastructure.
Exactly.
You map out the biology, you identify the biological incubator, and then you weave the protection of that habitat seamlessly into the daily fabric of the local community.
And it provides a tangible blueprint that could potentially be applied to other endangered freshwater species around the globe.
Which is huge.
It is. If this fair and collaborative model works in a complex working river like the Sesayap, it proves that human communities and apex predators can coexist without driving the wildlife to extinction or the humans into poverty.
Bringing this directly back to you, the listener, we live in an era where navigating the daily news often feels like wading through a relentless flood of information overload.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
And it is incredibly easy to feel a sense of environmental fatigue. We constantly read about habitat destruction, declining populations, and ecological tipping points. You hear it so often that you can start to assume the battle for global conservation is simply a lost cause.
And environmental fatigue is a deeply rational response to the volume of negative data we process every day. It is easy to become numb to the loss of biodiversity when it feels entirely out of our hands.
But this deep dive proves that the natural world possesses an incredible, stubborn resilience. The fact that a primary nursery ground holding 43 of the world's rarest freshwater sharks was just discovered thriving, growing, and reproducing in a heavily trafficked river where they were essentially thought to be ghosts is a massive, undeniable victory.
It really is.
It demonstrates that when rigorous science is paired with genuine community collaboration, we can literally pull a species back from the absolute brink of extinction.
The Sisayap River has transformed from a point on a map into a beacon of hope for global marine conservation.
Yeah.
It reminds us that our planet still holds profound biological mysteries, and that ecological recovery is always a possibility if we commit to creating the right social and environmental conditions for it.
It leaves me with a lingering thought that I want you to take with you as you go about your day. We started this conversation exploring the mechanics of how a 6-foot river ghost managed to stay hidden from the entire scientific community for over 2 decades. So, if a critically endangered apex predator can secretly thrive, utilizing a local river system as an incubator right under our noses, what other incredible lost wonders of nature are quietly surviving out there, just waiting for the right kind of collaborative science to find them?